Honorable Gajendra Kumar Ponnambalam, you have 15 minutes.
Thank you, sir. I'll like to start my comments since the Honorable State Minister is here. As you know, as Tamil members of Parliament, we visit the prisons quite a bit and meet with these Tamil political prisoners. And in the course of those meetings, we also talk to the prison officials. And of late, the prison officials, I think a total of they amount to about 6,000. They have been pleading with us to urge the government to consider them with regards to allowances, salary schemes, to consider them in par with the police department. Because the police are getting, I think because of this economic crisis, they are getting almost 40% of their salary as increments or as allowances, and that is not being made available to the prison authorities. So I urge you to consider that since the job that they do, it's not a large number, it's only 6,000. The job they do is as important as the police. So I ask you to consider that. With regards to the other matters, of course, it directly comes under the Honourable Minister, but I presume I can brief you. Sir, as you would know, there are PTA Tamil detainees, a total of 14, of which 9 are convicted prisoners. There are 5 individuals, Selvaraja Kirubaharan, Tambayya Prakash, Nadesan Kukadasan, Shanmugalingam Suryakumar, Tangavel Nomalan. These 5 individuals, Honourable State Minister, have cases that are still going on. However, now there are about 3 or 4 cases. These 5 individuals have about 3 or 4 cases. All the others are convicted. They're serving their sentence. Now, in the case of these 5, with regards to, say, if a person has 3 cases, in the case of Selvaraja Kirubaharan, for example, has 3 cases, 2 cases he has already been granted bail. 2 cases he has been granted bail, but because in the 3rd case, for some reason the authorities come up and object to bail on the basis that they say that they have intelligence reports that he might, recreate the LTT. I mean, this is preposterous. In which case he wouldn't have been granted bail in the previous 2 cases. So, you know, there must be some consistency. These are individuals who have they have almost served their sentence time waiting for their trials to finish. And in the case of this Mr. Kirubaharan, his confession has been rejected by the previous courts. And he is now again, after the rejection, after the cases in the previous cases came to an end, the AG's department have gone and filed new indictments based on that same confession. I think those are extremely unfair, Honourable Presiding Member. In fact, last year, during the committee stage of the Ministry of Justice, I raised this matter. Nothing has happened. I sincerely appeal to you and the Honourable Minister to intervene with regards to these 5 individuals and grant bail. There is no reason why they shouldn't be granted bail when everybody else has been granted bail. And with regards to, obviously, the convicted prisoners, PTA prisoners, I appeal to you to understand that they have been convicted under the PTA. We all reject the PTA. Your government, the Honourable Minister, thank you, Honourable Minister. The Honourable Minister made commitments in 2015 when he went to Geneva with the Honourable Mangala Samaravira, and it was during his tenure as being the Minister of Justice at that time that in fact the government of Sri Lanka made commitments that they will create a moratorium on the application of the PTA. And so when we ourselves in principle accept that the PTA is a draconian law and is not suitable and in almost all cases creates injustice, then it is only fair that these convicted prisoners who have served quite a number of years already should be in fact released. And I appeal to you to look at that as a matter of urgency and to seriously consider bail being granted to those 5 individuals whom I mentioned. who have other cases where bail has already been granted. So there is no reason why they should not be granted with regards to the cases that are outstanding. Then, Honourable Presiding Member, this is something that Honourable Siddharthan also mentioned, but he didn't mention the entire number. Under the PTA, despite the fact that the government's official position is that they will not use the PTA, the police continue to bring charges on B reports under the PTA. Now, if you take the last week, as you know, the government's position is that people are entitled to remember the dead. That is the official position. The President has said it, the Honourable Minister and others also have stated it. But the proviso being that they must not commemorate as LTT, that they must not project it as a LTT function. And as a result, people have in fact gone and tried to attend these various commemorations. And the police, particularly in the eastern province, not in the north, in the eastern province, have arrested 10 individuals on the basis of them taking part or in some way organizing these commemorations, out of which 2 individuals, Mr. Kumara Raja and Janojan, that is a father and son, are members of our own party. Members of our own party. The courts in Batticaloa, all the courts, when the police approached the courts to get a ban, the courts refused to give a ban. They said that commemorating the dead is a fundamental right enshrined under the Constitution, and they are entitled to do it, provided that there is no LTT paraphernalia that is being projected, that the LTT is not being projected during those events. So there was no LTT being projected. Everybody went there to commemorate the dead. And despite that, when these 2 individuals went, they were turned back. The police refused to allow them to commemorate at the cemeteries where these former cadres were buried or cremated. And they had to turn back. They, along with a vehicle that took some red and yellow flags, which is the flags of Tamil nationalism, that is the general flag. Our party also has red and yellow. There is no LTT in that. And when they were turned back, they were said that they cannot commemorate. When they were turned back and when they were going, the police stopped them halfway through and then took the person who was driving that vehicle in which they took these flags to try to commemorate to the police station. So my 2 party members who had hired that poor fellow also went to the police station, and ultimately they have all been charged under the PTA. They've all been charged under the PTA. For what? For doing something that the government said we can do, for doing something that the court said we can do, but because the police for some reason think that it is LTT. I mean, this is just completely unfair. Completely unfair. You see, there is, then thereafter there is Anthony Newton, Lanusan, that is the young gentleman who's 19 years old, who's waiting to do his A-levels in January. All that the father is Anthony Newton, all that these 2 individuals did was they provided the sound system for that commemoration. And these 2 individuals have been charged under the PTA for nothing else. He was hired. They had nothing to do with even organizing the process. There is an individual who drove the vehicle, also has been charged under the PTA. Navajeevan was the driver. Moheswaran is an individual who was working at the Sunshine Bakery as a cashier. Some lady had come and bought a cake, and in that cake the name Prabhaharan had been written, and the police have gone and charged her for having a cake with the name Prabhaharan written on it under the PTA, and they had proceeded to go and arrest a cashier. Now, are these PTA cases, Honorable Minister? I mean, it's just thoroughly being abused. The police are, this is police terrorism that is happening. It is deliberately them using the PTA to terrorize the population. That's it. There is nothing PTA about this. What is the terrorism in buying a cake and writing Prabharan, for God's sake? Huh? Then there is a old gentleman who belongs to a political party to which some of these TNA members are in coalition with. One Nagalingam Sangarapille, he belongs to the Janaya Poraliyal party. He had organized, he had provided some food and some dry rations to former LTT cadres, cadres who had died, their family, parents, and some people who are needy. Simply because he provided some food and dry rations to family members whose breadwinners, whose children are no more because they had died as cadres of the LTT, and they are struggling in today's economic situation to provide food parcels and to provide some dry rations. They are charged under the PTA. I mean, what on earth is going on? What on earth is going on? I ask you, Honorable Presiding Member, if we had a case last month where two presidents, former presidents, and a finance minister who are members of this house have been ruled as being the people who bankrupted this country. Let us say that they eventually are found guilty and they are put to prison. The whole world condemns them. This country is condemning them for bankrupting the country. Does that mean that if there are sections of the public who still believe that they are leaders, or for what reason, whatever they did is something that they still value and they want to support, just because they want to identify themselves with the Rajapaksas, does that make them criminals? Does it mean that if the Rajapaksas are found guilty tomorrow and they are sent to the gallows, does it mean that you can't go and talk to Mrs. Rajapaksa? Does it mean that you can't go and talk to the family? Does it mean that you can't go and invite them to their house? What is the meaning of this? What sort of principles are we propagating here? But that is what is happening. That is exactly what is happening. You are condemned. This government says that they send people to rehabilitation, former LTT cadres for rehabilitation, they're brought back into society. If members of the public go and try to give employment to them, or if members of the public try and help them,
Honourable Member, you have another 2 more minutes.
Employment, those former cadres are suffering. When members of the public like us, who feel that we have a duty to help these people because they are pauperized, when we go and help them, if we are being charged under the PTA for a false allegation that we are trying to regroup the LTT, on what basis can you be doing this? So you, Honourable Minister, have to intervene, because the police are not going to do it. For whatever reason, they are hell-bent on abusing these laws. Either it is coming from some above, where there is political interference coming from above, or the police have just no idea and they're adamant to abuse these laws. So you must intervene. These are political decisions that must be taken at the very highest. Directives must be given, and these people must be released. And you must make sure that these officers know that under no circumstances can they use the PTA, because you have given assurances. You personally have given assurances to the international community. It is not about whether the international community has double standards. Of course they do. We are not bothered about them. It is you as Minister of Justice previously who gave assurances. So we have to stick by our own standards. And I ask you, you more than anybody else, Honourable Minister, have a duty to make sure that this law is not applied in this way. I thank you.
Thank you. Honourable Minister.
Just want to respond to Honourable Member. As you said that it is correct that we who committed and assured that we are not going to enforce the PTA in 2015 January. In fact, that during my tenure that it was not enforced. Subsequently, when the Easter Sunday attack took place, I was not in the government. When that Easter Sunday attack took place, whatever the government that was in power, they had to make use, since it was a law available, and in fact, under the PTA that they had taken a lot of measures, not only to apprehend the culprits, but also to control further damages that could have been done. Further crimes could have been done when the communal issues are raised by various people that we do not know where the end is. At the same time that we were dedicated and we were committed, and we opened, through the legislation that we opened this OMP, Office of Missing Person, then the Reparation Office, then the Unity and Reconciliation. That bill also is here, but it was in operation. Unfortunately, if not for the Easter Sunday attack, that we could have, whatever the government which was in the power could have reached to some end on that bill. If the bill had gone to the Supreme Court, there was a determination after that clearance of it that could have been passed. Then anyway, due to that incident, that was hampered. Later on, when you assumed, this present government assumed the responsibility in May last year, we drafted a new bill. Of course, that there are certain principles which was in the Counter-Terrorism Act also. Then we gazetted it. When it was gazetted, that there were many representations, including from the Tamil political parties, even the Muslim political parties and trade unions, other political parties, even diplomatic corps, we listened to them. Then they pointed out certain things are not recognized or acceptable and against some democratic norms and principles. We listened to them. And then we agreed and we cancelled that bill. We cancelled the bill that was gazetted by us. Then we refined it again. Then we went through with all the stakeholders, including the high commissioners, ambassadors. Finally, we agreed on the final draft. That is what we have gazetted it. Still that anybody is having any concern, still that's Parliament is the one who makes the law, no? That we can discuss. And the other thing that this honourable member, I do not know, no, I am not referring, may not be referring to the person that you said, that I asked from the police, though honourable member said that that was not an LTT organization or revival law, that there was no any connection. No, these are the photos that they have forwarded to me in their T-shirts. In the front, that Prabhakaran's photograph is there. In the back, LTT flag is there. It may not be the eastern province. I think this is northern province. And, we are trying to build that's the relations between all the communities. When there are small groups, some extremists or fundamentalists creating issues like this, it is very difficult to have any consensus. When in 2015, there were over 350 detainees under the PTA. Then as much as possible, and with the assistance of the Honorable Attorney General also, that we released a large number. Thereafter, when there were serious charges, that we made arrangements to have two separate high courts, just to hear and conclude PTA cases, one in Colombo, one in Anuradhapura. In fact, that within that, I think 1.5 year or 2 years period, they could have finished very easily, because there were not more than 100 cases. But always then I also, check the progress of these courts from time to time. The most of the days what has happened is lawyers had come and asked for dates. And therefore, during that period that they could not have concluded. But with all that, it has come down to, I think, less than 20 altogether convicted and remands. 9 and 11, I think. 9 and 5. Right, yes. Now, with regard to that, the other persons also, convicted persons also, the Honorable Chairman, in fact that I think Honorable Jayantha Veerasinghe explained it, under the sentencing policy that we are going to bring it to the Parliament, some persons had been detained much more than the longer period sometimes than the sentence. But the sentence is commenced from the date where that his punishment, his sentence is confirmed either by the Court of Appeal or the Supreme Court. The legal system itself is in fault. That is wrong. Now we are trying to correct it. I think if we would have corrected it earlier, that a lot of people would have relief. I am hopeful that I am trying to bring that and get it passed very soon, maybe January or February.
Thank you, Honorable Gajendra Kumar.
Yes, Honourable Minister, I'm grateful to your comments. You will certainly have our cooperation with regards to those amendments that you want to bring so that you take in the period of remand also. With regards to those photographs of the LTT symbol and the LTT leaders thing on the T-shirt, now that is something that, that the police can certainly look into. We are not saying not to. But those are not things that you go under the PTA, Honourable Minister. The PTA is the most draconian law that for wearing a T-shirt with a photograph. Surely those are not reasons to go under the PTA. There are various other laws that you can use. Now, I can say it with utmost responsibility, none of this happened in the Eastern Province. The 10 individuals that I am talking of had no involvement with regards to any of this even. It was just simply them going and commemorating, or people who had helped with regards to organizing with the music, sound system or transport, who are today being charged under the PTA. Can you even justify that? I mean, there is a big difference, Honourable Minister, where you are forced to, as a responsible government, to look in terms of the PTA if in case some major catastrophe happens. Some major incident happens. This is a case where the government's policy is that you can commemorate. This is the case where the magistrate court orders have been given saying that you can commemorate. The police are violating it. It is the police that are abusing it.
Honourable Member, time is very limited.
That is what I am asking you to intervene in. Thank you.
Thank you.